from West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Support for the Legislature Today is provided by the following.
The West Virginia Higher Education Policy Commission, working with students and families to improve college access and student success for a better West Virginia. West Virginia University, online at wvu.edu.
Good evening. I'm Andrea Lanham, and this is the Legislature Today. Details about an estimated $84 billion investment by a Chinese energy company have been slim since the Governor and Commerce Secretary made the announcement last fall. Later in the program, we'll talk to a lead scientist at West Virginia University who describes a long-time relationship between the university and this energy company. But first, lots to talk about today with senior reporter Dave Mistich. Dave, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So first, let's talk about House Bill 4620, and this is originating bill from House Finance, and it addresses some of the PEIA funding.
Right, that was up in House Finance this morning. As you mentioned, it was originated there. They cleared it out. What this bill would do is it brings a $29 million transfer from the rainy day fund to the PEIA Stability Fund. And of course, we've heard a lot about this. The potential of a teacher strike, other state employees that are upset about this. But anyway, this bill would make a one-time transfer just for this upcoming fiscal year. Delegate Eric Nelson, who's the House Finance Chair, spoke on the floor of the House today, and this is what he had to say about that bill.
This is an unusual step, but we've heard much from our teachers and state employees about the uncertainties of the PEIA. They're going through these public hearings right now. I think the third one is tonight. And the board meets next week. Yes, we could handle this through our budget process, but I think for this body to give assurances to our public employees that we mean business and we're asking the PEIA board to make no changes to their current plan. And I believe that this move will do that.
And there have been some rumblings of a teacher strike related to this.
Right, and as of today, I've been told by the leaders of the teachers unions that they're expecting a walkout in Cabell, Wayne, Mason, Clay. Likely Brooke is what they said. They were waiting on a vote from them. And also there was some word about possibly Lincoln and Boone counties. So as of that number, 4 confirmed, 1 likely, and then 2 more that were strong possibilities of getting there as well too. So.
Now, another thing that happened today was the Co Tenancy Bill, which was on second reading in the House today. Several amendments offered to this. Right.
Well, the first one of note, I believe it was the first amendment that came up too, was from Delegate Barbara Fleischauer. As the bill stands right now, it would take a 75% threshold of co-tenants, 75% of the landowners to agree to a lease for drilling to take place, and those rights to be given up to the drilling companies. Delegate Fleischauer presented an amendment that would call for a 90% agreement among landowners. However, that amendment failed, but there was some really interesting debate on the floor, and we'll take a look and a listen to that right now.
We're going to compromise private property rights. We should have the highest burden possible, and I think 90% is fair. I think that's what we should try to do, is make this bill as fair as possible if we are going to be depriving people of their private property rights.
Support the gentlelady's amendment. I just believe it raises the threshold for further protections over private property. There's some good old-fashioned ideas this country was started around: life, liberty, and private property. And I hate when those ideas start going by the wayside.
To take it to the 90% level proposed with this amendment, I believe will result eventually in the continuation of the use of partition suits if they can't find the co-tenants. necessary to achieve the 90% level. This is a reasonable amount to begin the elimination of what I consider to be a very oppressive thing with partition suits in the state. And so I would ask the rejection of the ladies and gentlemen's amendment and the bill to stand as it is drafted.
Now, another amendment that was offered was by Delegate Folk, and he set a minimum threshold of owners for this to kick in.
Right, and originally he called for 9. He retracted that, revised the amendment. It now calls for 7. And that bill, or that amendment, did pass as well too. So as of now, it would take at least 7 co-tenants or landowners for that 75% threshold to kick in on this bill. So that was another amendment that was passed as well. So.
And another one passed was one offered by Delegate Eisner, and this set it was 50-50. One goes to PEIA in particular, like half goes to that.
Right. They discussed, so part of the co-tenancy issue is these unknown or unlocatable landowners, right? And so revenues would come in, and there was a question as to what that would fund when the state would take that money. I believe originally there was an understanding that would go to a reclamation fund, and Eisner's amendment would split that in half. Half would go to that reclamation fund. This is money that isn't revenue currently. It would be created by this bill and by this co-tenancy this co-tenancy bill as well. But Eisner would call for the 50% of those revenues to come into the PEIA Stability Fund, and that's 50%. And we'll take a look at a little bit of the debate on the floor of the House there too.
So all I'm asking is that we take 50% of the money from the money that is held by the state for the unclaimed property for the folks that we just couldn't locate, and put it into a fund to help with PEIA. And the specific place that I have asked to put it is only for the purpose of lowering retiree premiums, to help reduce benefit cuts, and to help reduce premium increases. I think those are exactly the things that these people who lined our halls have been talking about. I think this is exactly the kind of thing that the thousands of people who plan to show up here Saturday have been talking about. We're talking about lowering premiums for retirees who just can't afford it. We're talking about reducing benefit cuts, and we're talking about helping to reduce premium increases. Isn't that exactly what we've been trying to say that we want to do all session long? A freeze is not a fix.
We don't.
So over on the Senate side, there was House Bill 2568, and this allows the replacement cost of an employer provided by property to be deducted from the paycheck.
Right. There was a lot of discussion on that bill on the Senate floor today. It did pass. However, that did eat up a lot of time on the Senate floor today. A lot of discussion. Some people just basically broke it down and said, on a fundamental level, if you take something from your employer, that you're stealing, and that, but essentially the debate went on. The bill did pass. So.
And also over on the Senate side, we had Senate Bill 273, and that limits the use of certain prescription drugs.
Right. Senator Stallings had presented an amendment to that. They did not get to the amendment stage on there. They laid it over for one day, so it'll be again on second reading tomorrow on the amendment stage in the Senate. Also, Senate Joint Resolution 3, which calls for the Judicial Budget Oversight Amendment. Senator Romano presented an amendment there that was rejected. That called for anything more than a 3% reduction in the state Supreme Court's budget to be approved by a 2/3 majority in both chambers, both the House and Senate. And again, that amendment failed. That bill advances on to third reading as well. So also on third reading tomorrow is the Intermediate Court Bill. Right. And there's been a lot talked about that in committee. It's went through Judiciary and as well as Finance. It's now making its way up for a vote tomorrow. A lot of questions on how much that would cost right now. There was a lot of questions in Finance So we will see what comes of that bill. It's spent a lot of time in committee and it's making its way through the floor right now. So.
Right, if I remember that right, there were two different fiscal notes to that, one by the Supreme Court and
one by a committee itself. So there's a little bit of a disagreement, and there was a big gap, millions and millions of dollars as far as the difference between what those fiscal notes look like. So we'll see what comes out of the Senate tomorrow. There'll be a lot up. Again, 273, the joint resolution on the intermediate or on the judicial budget oversight, as well as the intermediate appellate courts, and it'll be a big day tomorrow over there. So.
Definitely lots to follow tomorrow.
Right.
Senior reporter Dave Mistich, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Next, the Co Tenancy Bill we've all been following has been called necessary to expand the oil and gas industry in West Virginia and could have some impact on a deal with China that Governor Justice and Commerce Secretary Woody Thrasher announced last fall. We fielded quite a few questions from the people around the state who want to know more about this company, China Energy, the largest energy company in China. Assistant News Director Glennis Board recently sat down with the director of West Virginia University's Energy Institute for his insight on the deal's potential impact. Turns out the university has been working with this company for years.
So November last year, there was a big announcement from West Virginia's government, a deal with the biggest Chinese coal company, China Energy, to invest billions in West Virginia's natural gas industry. A memorandum of understanding between China Energy and West Virginia's Department of Commerce outlines a 20-year commitment to invest $83.7 billion in the state's shale gas industry. Now, of course, this didn't just happen overnight. Here to give us some insight into this deal and the company behind it is the director of the Energy Institute at West Virginia University, Brian Anderson. Thanks, Brian, for coming into our Morgantown studios.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, Brian, you're from West Virginia, 9th generation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you went to WVU, and then you left for a while to study at MIT. You did your master's and PhD program there. What did you study while you were at MIT?
Actually, my thesis was on natural gas hydrates, which is something that occurs in ocean floors and in Alaska under the permafrost. And so it was really the thermodynamics and the molecular level interactions of these hydrate materials.
Wow. And so then you made your way back to West Virginia. You were a professor at WVU for 9 years, and then you started the Energy Institute, right?
That's right. A little over 3 years ago, we launched the Energy Institute so that we could both help coordinate energy research at the university, but also own our land-grant institution mission as a university with outreach into the state to assist with economic development and also responsible stewardship of our energy resources.
Great. So then tell me, when did the possibility of collaborating with this Chinese company really hit your radar?
Well, this partnership with the precursor company of China Energy, Shenhua, was one of the two companies that merged to create China Energy. That partnership between WVU predates me at the university. It's been going on for about 15 years in developing technologies to convert coal to liquid fuels and also for carbon capture and storage through some programs at the university. We've had this relationship ongoing, but about 3 years ago now, we started developing some ideas for investment opportunities for then Shenhua in West Virginia because of the resources that are here in the state.
Great. Commerce officials say projects are going to focus on power generation, chemical manufacturing, and underground storage of natural gas liquids and derivatives. So this idea of a storage hub is something you've really been focused on. And in a nutshell, the idea is that, we want to learn from our past and not just export all of our natural resources to try to attract economic development here with this gas storage hub. Is that correct?
That's exactly right, because even 5 years ago now at the university, we launched an initiative then called a Mountain of Excellence in natural gas utilization, and this was specifically designed around taking the resources and adding value before we export them. So instead of exporting the commodities, coal in rail cars, or electrons on transmission lines, now we have an opportunity for rebirth and adding value to the raw materials through converting them into plastics and then manufacturing. Every time you add value, you add jobs and you add wealth where the resource is extracted. So that's really what we're trying to set that course. Now with the storage hub, that is really a critical piece of the infrastructure that we don't have in the region, that the major petrochemical hub in the United States, in Texas and Louisiana, has this trading facility for the natural gas liquids, not the methane, but the ethane and propane and butane, to where you can create a robust trading market. And that's what we don't have currently in Appalachia, and that's what we're trying to build with the storage hub.
Yeah, and you've said or quoted there could be economic development and thousands, 100,000 jobs.
Well, the American Chemistry Council has estimated that it would be about 101,000 jobs, and their estimate was about $36 billion of investment in the region that is just waiting to happen. The American Chemistry Council's assumption is that we're successful in building the storage and trading hub.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I'm still a little bit unclear, and I've been talking with community partners who are also unclear about this. When you talk about that volume of jobs, what kind of jobs are we talking about? Are we talking about 4-year degree jobs, associate's degrees? How are I've spoken with people who are interested in training students. Like, how do we prepare for this?
It is a mixture of 4-year and associates and trade jobs. The bulk of them will be associates and trade jobs in the manufacturing facilities. So of those 101,000 jobs, they're all permanent jobs, and per the American Chemistry Council, very well-paying jobs. But it's specifically around, first is a cracker to take the ethane and convert it into the first step of plastics. And then it's all the derivatives of creating something from the plastics, whether it's diapers or toys, and all along that pathway, you have to continuously convert the plastics into those other goods. And so it's that whole supply chain, all the way from the crackers through the final manufacturing, that adds up to the 100,000 jobs.
I mean, forgive me if I'm a little skeptical here, because when you look at what's going on in this day and age with technology, automation, I mean, won't all of these jobs be gone in 30 years to robots?
Well, certainly not all of them. I'm not ready to trust driving my car to artificial intelligence quite yet. And I think that there's not only the operation and maintenance jobs that will continue, but also the higher tech employment that leads to automation. We will need people who are skilled in computer programming, who are skilled in computer technicians as well, all in supporting this advanced manufacturing. And then finally, there are some real opportunities that are right in front of us now in advanced materials. So the commodity chemicals that come out of the back of a cracker, well, those are pretty widespread and ubiquitous. But it's the new materials that we're going to continuously be developing that adds value to this resource, because it provides these new materials that go into lightweighting of vehicles, things like carbon fiber reinforced plastics that can help revitalize our road and bridge structures. And then as we start developing advanced manufacturing techniques, these start to roll out into the market. And so what is important to remember, the farther down that supply chain you go toward the end product, the more people per pound of material that it takes for that manufacturing to occur. So every step we take, from the cracker, then the plastics, composites, and dye manufacturers, and then into the final products, every step we're multiplying the number of people that are employed per pound of original ethane that we start with.
Well, that's hopeful. And, so getting back to this idea of China energy, I understand that obviously for years, but especially recently, there have been some folks from China Energy that have been here. They've been touring around. You've been involved with that. Can you tell us about those experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. The China Energy investment portfolio that they had proposed to the state of West Virginia includes a number of different projects, and all of these projects are in various stages of development. As has been announced, it includes natural gas power plants, as well as chemical manufacturing facilities, and interest in investment of the storage hub. And throughout the chemical manufacturing portfolio, there's a number of different projects and project teams from China Energy that are working on various stages of those projects in development. And so when, this is a bit of a different type of project development than we're used to. Usually a company, in West Virginia, we're familiar with Braskem and their announcement of moving on trying to build the ethane cracker in Wood County. And usually with commercial development, a lot happens behind the scenes until they're ready to make the announcement, and then it's announced. And so you can imagine a portfolio of China Energy projects that are all working behind the scenes right now, ready to individually be announced. And so that's what we're going to see over the course of the next 20 years, are a number of different individual projects to be announced.
But why, I still don't quite understand why that memorandum of understanding hasn't just been transparent. Like why hasn't it been released?
Well, I think that part of it is just as that analogy of these individual projects are doing the commercial due diligence behind the scenes. They're trying to work with the real estate developers for the location. They're trying to work with potential commercial partners who might buy what it is that they manufacture at their facility. And if it's released, it ends up releasing a lot of the corporate secrets that aren't secret because they're bad. They're just secret because it would give away to the competition the plans that China Energy has specifically for individual projects.
Okay.
And so that's why I say it's very different than most commercial development projects. Because they announced, we're looking to invest $83.7 billion across a number of projects, where usually it's all quiet until you announce each individual specific project.
Yeah. What else can you tell us about this company and the confidence that you have in China Energy? Tell us a little bit about the culture of the company and what it is that they do.
Well, because we have a long history of working with China Energy and the Shenhua Corporation before them, we at WVU have had a very good opportunity to see behind the scenes the way that this company works. And they're a state-owned enterprise, partially. 40% of the company is traded publicly in Shanghai and Hong Kong. And they have been continuously progressing to look much more like a Western company than the traditional Chinese state-owned enterprises. And what I mean by that is they're investing in research and development. They have a major R&D center in Beijing and another that they opened in Palo Alto next to Stanford University. They're specifically focused on mostly environmental research in terms of carbon capture, sequestration, storage, or carbon CO2 conversion, or in alternative energy. They have one of the world's greatest solar panel research facilities for the development of solar electricity. When they combined with Guodian Power to make the largest power company in the world, they're also the largest solar company in the world in terms of the amount of solar and also the wind power that they generate. And so this is a company that is not they're not foreign to renewable energy investments, and they also operate much more like a very integrated company through their entire supply chain. And so that's why they're interested in a portfolio of projects all along the supply chain, because there's economic benefit for them. And for us, it means just more investment and more manufacturing here in the state. And so that's just some context on working with China Energy. I think that that's on working with China Energy, I think that that's on working with China Energy, I think that that's on working with China Energy, I think that that's on working with China Energy, I think that that's on working with China Energy, I think that that's on working with China Energy, I think that that's on working with China Energy, I think that that's on working with China Energy, I think that that's on working with China.
We apologize for some of the technical difficulties that we just experienced. We will bring that to you again. Again, that was Glennis Ford reporting from our Morgantown studio. This concludes the Legislature Today this evening. Tomorrow is EMS Day at the Capitol. As part of that day of honoring emergency medical services workers, West Virginia Public Broadcasting is sponsoring 2 screenings of the Oscar-nominated film Heroin. The documentary focuses on Huntington, West Virginia's opioid crisis and 3 women who are battling that war, including an EMS firefighter. The screenings include a 3 p.m. private showing for lawmakers and a 7 p.m. screening free and open to the public, followed by a panel discussion at the University of Charleston. But before that, make sure to tune in to the Legislature Today at 6 for an in-depth interview with the filmmaker, Elaine McMillian Sheldon of Logan County, West Virginia. I'm Andrea Lanham. Thanks for joining us and have a great evening.